Okay? Ayan. Sabi dito, which is composed of the cognitive process by which we attempt to understand others and the social world. Hindi ba? Katulad nung ano natin, nung illusion, anong tawag doon sa module 3 na inaral natin, hindi ba? Yung, ano na nga ba yun? Nakalimutan ko na. Um, yung, ano ba to? Yan, the spotlight effect. Okay, hindi ba? Meron tayong ganyang tendency na masyado tayong conscious about what other people would think about us. Okay? So, according here, one issue daw addressed by social cognition is how self-esteem predicts self-judgment. So, ano nga ba yung self-esteem? Okay, inaral natin yan sa module 3. Okay, self-esteem is our self-worth, how we value ourselves, di ba? So thinking daw of alternative scenarios during unpleasant event is a feature of social cognition. Okay, and a primary reason that people spend time thinking about other people is because they have to make judgments, okay, about other people. And in making judgment about others, cognition is closely linked to our affect. Okay, ano ba yung affect? Affect has something to do with our emotions, di ba? Kaya nga, sabi natin na ang social psychology is about the ABC of psychology, the affect, di ba? The behavior and the cognition. Okay. So, ano ba itong social judgment na to? Okay? Tayo yung nagbibigay ng nagdidikta kung appropriate ba or hindi yung nakikita natin sa ibang tao. Now, this was developed by psychologist Muzaffar Sherif, okay, with significant input from Carl O. Hovland and Caroline W. Sherif, okay, but this was developed by Muzaffar. Now, there are 5 basic principles now in social judgment theory. Ano yun? The first asserts that people have categories of judgment with which they evaluate incoming information. Okay? The second principle does states that as people evaluate incoming information, they determine the category of judgment or latitude to which it belongs. Okay? Paano ba kayo nagbibigay ng judgment? Ayan. So, number 3, the third principle daw asserts that the size of latitudes is determined by the level of personal involvement or ego involvement one has in the issue at hand. Okay, yung fourth principle ay principle 4 states that people distort incoming information to fit their categories of judgment. And number 5, the fifth principle daw asserts that optimal persuasion occurs when the discrepancies between the anchor and the advocated position are small to moderate. Okay, so paano ba tayo nagbibigay ng social judgment? Okay. Kayo ba, sabi dito sa first assertion, people daw have categories of judgment with which they evaluate incoming information. So, when you see a person, hindi ba, or someone, ano ang judgment natin? 'Di ba, sabi natin sa palabas ng bawal ang judgmental. Ayan. Ah, kayo ba, how do you judge other people? What are your basis of social judgment?
Ma'am, attitude nila.
Attitude nila. Okay. Ano pa?
Personality, ma'am.
Okay. Ano ang tingin sa inyo ng personality nila? Okay. Ano pa?
Sometimes appearance.
Appearance. Okay. Yan.
Kung paano po sila makipagkapwa-tao, ma'am.
Kung paano sila makapagkapwa-tao. Ano pa? Okay. Ano pa? Di ba? Yan yung mga factors kung bakit tayo nagbibigay ng judgment sa kanila. Ano pa?
Pagsasalita po nila, ma'am.
Okay. Sometimes sa manner ng pagsasalita nila. Okay. Ano pa?
Sometimes sa galaw po ng
galaw ng ano?
Ng mata po.
Oh, sa galaw ng mata, nakikita mo rin. Okay? Ano pa? Okay, so marami tayong defense mechanism.
Opo.
Okay. Yan. I don't know kung ano. I don't know kung po pwede niyong makita to. Wait lang, wait lang.
Ano yung mata ko, ma? Gusto nang pumikit.
Minum kang tubig.
Ah, parang nga, oh.
Yung nag-aaral ko, natutulog.
Hindi naka-record to, kaya kailangan rinig pa naman yung
Naku,
labas ng
mukhang
sound.
mahina ang signal ko.
Ito.
Okay.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's wordy and hard to read. It undermines the writer's message, and the word choice is bland. Grammarly's cutting-edge technology.
Hello, are you still with me?
Apo.
What's social judgment?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe everyone has recently seen many reports about coronavirus. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart to get food for the next few months. When we saw this report, I believe you also noticed the different reactions of people around here. For example, some people feel that they should prepare immediately. Some people get freaked out. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart and should prepare immediately. Some people get freaked out. Others feel that this is just a small flu, and they're. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart to get food for the next few months. I believe everyone has recently seen many reports about coronavirus. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart. What's
Okay. So, let's see. Tingnan natin kung kung makikita nyo ito.
Kanina 7:30.
Para so that we could better understand what social judgment is all about. Are you still with me?
Mga bogus lahat yung
Yes.
Okay, wait lang.
mga dami account ng Hindi pwede kasing ganun eh.
Hindi ko lang alam kung kung gagana.
Para lang mag-ano kayo sa kanila.
Wait lang.
Buti na lang.
Naku.
Kasi dati hindi naman ganyan kalaki yung
Ayaw
800 na nga yun kahapon 806.
Anong gagawin ko?
Kaya lang used
Hindi ma-share yung tab. Wait lang. So, dapat pala dito. Dapat pala dito ako mag-open. Wait lang.
$7.18. Laki na nabawas.
persuasion theory proposed by Carolyn Sheriff and Zafir Sheriff.
What's social?
Okay, let us see if you can hear the giving. Ayan, kita na.
Many reports about coronavirus. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart to get food for the next few months. When we saw this report, I believe you also know coronavirus. Judgment theory?
Okay. Ayan, nakikita niya ba?
Yes po, ma'am.
Okay. Ayan, gusto ko nga panood niyo to. Okay, full screen ko lang. Ayan. Okay.
I believe everyone has recently seen many reports about coronavirus. Maybe some of you have already been to Walmart to get food for the next few months. When we saw this report, I believe
Okay, can you hear it clearly?
Opo.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige.
Yes, ma'am.
Sige.
you also noticed the different reactions of people around you. For example, some people feel that they should prepare immediately. Some people get freaked out. Others feel that this is just small flu, and there is no need to be so nervous. Of course, some people think that they don't live in the United States and far away from the affected area, SP don't really care about it. It is the same message conveyed through the same media channels. Why do people react so differently? Let's get into today's topic, social judgment theory, and learn more about this phenomenon. Before we start, let's take a look at some statement of facts. Social judgment theory was first developed in the 1960s. This theory was proposed by Carolyn Sharif, Muzafer Sharif, and Carl Hovland. Psychology at that time was right in the development of cognitive psychology. Researchers are curious as to what drives people to perform certain behaviors and the reasons behind them. This background period is when we begin to get a deeper understanding of the human cognitive process. So what exactly is social judgment? Social judgment is the process of perception and judgment based on one's attitude when an individual faces a specific message or issue. This process also determines how people perceive and evaluate this message when we create it to persuade others. How to use message design to change others' attitudes to issues to convey the message we want them to accept. When we know coronavirus, what is our attitude towards this issue, and how will we respond to this issue? This may sound abstract, but don't worry. We have a specific model that helps us measure our judgment process. In social judgment theory, there are three key factors that make up our perception of information. The first is the judgmental anchor, which represents individual.
Okay? Ayan. Pinos ko muna kasi sobrang bilis niya. I know, hindi din kayo naka-follow. So, balikan ko lang ha. Ano nga ba yung sinasabi niya na meaning ng judgment theory? Yan. Yan, para makasunod kayo.
Cognitive process. So what exactly is social judgment? Social judgment is the process of perception and judgment based on one's attitude when an individual faces a specific message or issue. This process
Okay, again, anong sabi niya? Yan.
also
Ulitin ko
determines
lang,
how
ha.
people perceive and evaluate this message when we create it to persuade others.
Perception.
How to use message design to change others' attitudes to issues to convey the message we want them to accept. When we know coronavirus, what is our attitude towards this issue, and how will we respond to this issue? This may sound abstract, but don't worry. We have a specific model that helps us measure our judgment process. In social judgment theory, there are three key factors that make up our perception of information. The first is the judgmental anchor, which represents individuals' original personal acceptance to the message. Judgmental anchors vary from individual to individual. The second one is latitudes of rejection, acceptance, and non-commitment, which is individuals' spectrum of attitude when faced relevant information. The last is ego involvement, which is the depth of individuals' involvement in this issue. Ego involvement depends on how much our judgment on this issue affects our self-esteem in life. Let's look at them one by one. People's attitudes towards specific issues are divided into 3 levels, and each person's attitude scale is different. Latitudes of acceptance indicates that people are accepting and agreeing to this message. Latitudes of rejection means disagree or reject the message. Latitudes of non-commitment means that the issue is not very relevant to the audience or the audience doesn't have specific opinion. Next, let's see ego involvement, which is a very important factor when conveying a persuasive message. When people pay more attention to an issue or the issue is important to people, ego involvement will be higher. A deeper understanding of the issue will also have clearer views and attitudes, and a broader latitudes of rejection. As a result, people with higher ego involvement are more difficult to convince. However, when the message is right at the anchor point or is much farther away from the anchor point, can persuasion still happen? The answer is no. When the message falls near the anchor point, the assimilation effect occurs. At this time, the individual has believed the message, and repeating the message again will not cause persuasion. Conversely, if the message is too far away from the anchor point, a contrast effect will occur. The message tends to be directly denied, nor does it persuade. Therefore, when trying to convey a persuasive message, the most effective message is between latitudes of acceptance and non-commitment. The messages in this interval can change people's attitudes toward issues and achieve the goal of persuasion. So how do we apply this theory? Social judgment theory helps us predict an individual's attitude towards an issue. First, we can identify the range of individuals' attitudes towards particular issues. This will increase their acceptance on the issue. At the same time, social judgment theory can predict who is suitable for persuasion and those who are difficult to persuade. This allows us to target our audience. For example, politics candidates' election message. If the individual is highly concerned about politics and already support a specific candidate, then we can decide that the target is difficult to persuade and re-select our main target segment. Today we have many different types of media, including social media such as Facebook, Instagram, video platform YouTube, news and television, games, movies and more. We receive all kinds of messages every day. Social judgment theory points out that people's different attitudes will affect their perception and judgment toward the same message. So this theory is very important in the process of persuasion, and we can have it as our guidelines for persuasion. When we understand people's attitudes towards things, we can persuade others more effectively. In addition to avoiding the failure caused by direct persuasion, observing the attitude scale of the target segment also allows us to persuade them more accurately. At the same time, this theory can also be applied to consumer behavior analysis to make advertising targeting more precise. Suppose we are an insurance company, and now we are going to convince a person. Convince him to value the impact of coronavirus and buy our insurance. We noticed that he wasn't worried about getting coronavirus, and didn't know much about it. His ego involvement in the issue is also relatively low. We know that he cares about his family. So we can create a set of messages to prove that older people have a higher mortality rate than young people. Therefore, he wasn't worried about getting the virus, but he was afraid of spreading it to his family. He became more alert to the virus. Furthermore, he did not know the actual cost of getting the virus, so we can provide detailed data to convince him to make his acceptance range increase. By changing his attitude to the issue step by step, we can more easily convince him to accept the message. At this point, we can introduce him to our products and give him the message we wanted to convey in the first place. This theory can be applied to a wide range of areas, just like the customer behavior analysis just mentioned. Or in various fields, such as politics, global issues, same-sex marriage, etc. Next time when you try to convince others, don't rush to state your point. By observing each other's attitude toward the issue, I believe you can also benefit from this theory.
Okay, yan. Malinaw ba? Malinaw ba na malinaw nyo bang narinig? Hindi ba nag-buff sa inyo?
Okay naman po, malinaw.
Okay naman
Okay,
po siya.
malinaw now. Okay, what have you learned from the video?
ba yung social?
Wait lang. Anong gagawin ko dito? Ayan. Gusto niyo bang ulitin natin o okay na? Ako ay, hindi to. Ayan.
So, wow.
Okay? So, with the video, hindi ba nakita natin yung significance ng social judgment theory. Okay? In most cases in our lives, hindi ba, napupunta tayo doon sa situation in which we need to persuade others, hindi ba? Lalo na kung halimbawa meron tayong opinion na gusto nating, na feeling natin tayo yung tama. Sorry ma'am, I don't have mic po kasi. O sige, Jamie, you can type your pwede ka naman mag-message. I learned that everyone has his own perspective. We don't need to rush things out in terms of focusing our judgment to other people. Okay? Ano pa ang natutunan nyo from the video that we have watched? Napakinggan nyo ba? We accept and reject. Hindi ba sa mga sa mga discussions, hindi ba? Palaging may kumukontra. Hindi ba? Palaging may hindi sasang-ayon sa iyo. And most of the time kailangan kapag tama ka, you need to persuade others para makuha mo na may point out mo na tama ka. Hindi ba? Parang katulad nga nitong virus na to na kung saan hindi lahat ay naniniwala na may virus unless maranasan nila. Hindi ba? So how are you going to win an argument or how are you going to persuade others para, 'di ba, para makuha mo din yung yung makuha mo yung gusto mo. Okay? So that is the significance of social judgment theory. Kayo ba, how do you persuade others? Yes, JB.
Una po ang gagawin ko, papakinggan ko po muna yung side nung opponent o nung kausap ko bago ko po ibibigay yung side ko. Tapos po kapag nakikipagtalo po siya, nakikipag-argument po, kasi iba-iba naman po yung paniniwala natin iba-iba po yung belief natin, depende po sa experience niya. Kapag po nakikipag-argument pa rin siya, pinipilit niya po yung paniniwala niya, papabayaan ko na lang po. Tapos pagka binigyan ko po siya ng mga link, kunwari po ng mga articles, gano'n. Tapos pag pinabasa ko, papabayaan ko na lang po sa judgment niya kung sasang-ayon siya o hindi.
Okay. Similarly with what Jerwin stated, dapat daw mag-state ka ng proof. Okay? Lady Pauline, you're raising your hand?
Ma'am, yes po, pero same lang din po nung kay Derder. Ang pinagkaiba lang po is kapag una pa lang po, alam ko na hindi siya open makinig dun sa sasabihin ko. I let her or his, na lang po, talk.
Oo. Hinahayaan mo na lang.
Tapos, umagree na lang din po sa sasabihin niya.
Oo. With, with the power of the technology na meron na tayo ngayon na internet, di ba? Halos lahat may may say na about the issue. Kapag po hindi interesado yung mga tao, obserbahan po muna, tapos po i-relate mo po sa aspeto nila na concern sila. Like sa video, concern siya sa family niya, kaya doon po ni-relate yung video. Oo nga, no? Sa panahon ngayon na lahat tayo ay parang, di ba, sabi nga nung iba, sa bawat issue nakikisawsaw ang lahat, na parang lahat tayo ay entitled sa opinion natin, okay, about the life of other people. Hindi ba? Napaka-significant, lahat tumatalino pag may issue. Oo nga, hindi ba? Okay, at sila yung nag-aaway-away. Hindi ba? Pero ang hindi alam ng mga tao, pinapayaman lang nila yung mga pinag-uusapan nila. Hindi ba? na ano na the more na they talk about the issue, the more na yumayaman yung nagpasimula ng issue. Ayan. So, in dealing with with other people, 'di ba? Importante itong social judgment theory na nakita niya din sa video. Ano ang application nito? Paano natin siya ginagamit, hindi ba? Ayan. So, that is a social theory. Let us now move on with okay, wait. Yan, sabi ni Jerwin, we accept and reject based po doon sa ego involvement natin po and mag-fall siya doon sa latitude of acceptance and rejection. Yes! Election na. Our self-judgment is based on what we perceive in our society issues. Wow. And we always persuade others by saying our own perception and observation to them and explain to them what I have really observed in our environment and based on the news, not in the fake news. Okay? So, dapat, di ba, mas na tayo ngayon, mas critical na tayo mag-isip, mas tinitingnan na natin yung kung ano yung dapat. Okay? Kaya on a psychological perspective, 'di ba, merong ganong paliwanag on how we will accept, okay, yung latitude of acceptance and rejection, 'di ba, yung point of view ng others. Yan. Ready na ba kayo para sa prelim exam next week? Anong araw pala tayo?
Tuesday po, ma'am.
Ha?
Tuesday nakalagay dito eh. Wait lang.
Anong araw tayo? Wednesday? Tuesday tayo.
Tuesday po, ma'am.
Tuesday
Okay,
po.
sige. Tuesday pala. Okay. Akala ko ano tayo. Akala ko Wednesday tayo. Yung developmental psychology ko pala ang Wednesday. Okay. Ayan. Okay. Okay. Meron din tayong tinatawag na heuristics. Okay. This was, it was during the 1950s that the Nobel Prize-winning economist and cognitive psychologist Herbert Simon originally introduced the concept of heuristic when he suggested that while people though strive to make rational choices, okay, human judgment is subject to cognitive limitation. Okay. Human judgment daw is subject, purely rational decisions would involve, di ba, yung weighing all alternatives such as potential cost against possible benefits, di ba? Palaging kapag nag-iisip tayo, yun yung mga consideration natin. Now, ano itong heuristics na to? This is a mental process in social cognition that act as shortcuts to making a shortcut to decision making by saving cognitive effort. Now they are decision making rules that save mental effort. Now they are used in social cognition because they save cognitive effort in processing. Now they are also useful as a balance between early decisions making and cognitive processing. Tuwing kailan ba natin ito ginagamit itong heuristic? So, this reduce mental effort needed to make decision. This simplify complex and difficult questions. Okay, they're a fast and accurate way to arrive at the conclusion and help with problem solving. Okay, yan. So, there is also what we call false consensus effect. Okay. Now, this is the tendency to overestimate how much other people agree with us. Okay? Ayan, ang tawag dyan ay false consensus effect. Okay? So this kind of cognitive bias now leads people to believe that their own values and ideas are normal and that the majority of people share this same point. Okay? Ano ba itong false consensus effect? This suggests that people overestimate the proportion of people who agree with them on a given topic. So an explanation is that the belief that others are like us, okay, protects our self-esteem. It is explained by the ability heuristic because the opinions of our friends are both more like ours and easier to bring to mind than the average opinion. So it is least likely to to apply to highly desirable attitudes when people may be motivated to stand out from the crowd in some positive way. So, okay, sabi dito, of course, I'm not like everyone else. Okay? So, ano itong, magbigay nga tayo ng example nitong false consensus effect. Okay? Di ba? Na, which means, ino-overestimate natin yung proportion ng people who agree with us. Okay? Kailan nangyayari ito? Okay? Itong tendency natin to overestimate how much other people agree in us. Okay? Yung alam natin na lahat sila mag-agree sa atin na ganun din ang iniisip ng iba. Hello mga kababayan, nandyan pa ba kayo?
Yes po, ma'am.
Yes po.
Parang crab mentality lang.
Yes po.
Jerwin.